feature that is great for the initial, sort of prototyping design phase of an interface is using connections to quickly alias functionality from one object to the next. So without further ado, let me just show you what connections do and then talk about sort of how they do it and what times it's good and not good to use them. To start, I'll bring in a slider, and then I will bring in a meter, and I'll just put those on the screen, both of those, and maybe I select them both and go to the home ribbon and align their centers, something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now if I go into run mode right now, nothing happens to the meter, but if I use connections, just select both these guys and have the connections pane up. See if it's just another pane in the interface. You can see that it will actually have collapsible lists of the connections on all the objects. It turns out the slider value has a plug icon. That's an output. Okay, and it's gonna, by the way, it's gonna give you this nice little help pane to show you just how you might adapt connections from previous versions. So if you're a veteran user, you might want to go through this and figure out the differences. But for the sake of this video, because I'm showing it to you now, I'll just click OK and not mention much of that here. But I do want to point out that the plug icon is the output and the meter icon is the input. And I'll click OK. And what we do is control click both of those, right? And then we click connect. And really that pop-up is, for the most part, saying, select two in the pane instead of having two separate connections windows that popped up like they did in previous versions of Altia Design. Instead, they're all going to be listed. All the selected objects will be listed in the connections pane. Make sure to control click the two that you want and click connect. Okay, and that's what we've just done now. One thing that's really cool about that is just the visual description you get. But if you have lots of objects with lots of different connections, you can see what's connected to what and quickly control click multiple objects to connect and disconnect them. Now that we've made the connection though, let's go back into run mode and see what's going on. Without doing anything else, we just connected those two objects and they now talk to each other. And this is quick and easy, regardless what you do. Let's say we bring in a knob and then maybe a readout, right? So we drop these two in. And of course, select these two guys and output of the knob value, and then control click. And I should really be, for the sake of this video, checking the box, don't show next time, right? So it would keep popping up, but that's okay. We're going to send the knob output value to the input of the readout value. Just control click connect, and then in run mode, they talk to each other as well. Now, how does this work? If you look at the animation pane and you collapse the knob, you can see that the readout here, also collapsible, it really, everything's 74 readout text integer, and the knob is 52 knobs. So clearly no animation names are matching. We're not directly renaming one of these to match. But it's this act of connecting them that forms sort of an alias association. So it's going to basically say, hey, take my broadcast, my output, and receive it with your antenna, your input connection. And just by doing that, those objects now start talking to each other. Now this is, as you can see, really good for rapidly mocking something up, but it gets a little cumbersome on production environments with teams, because somebody has to be in here in Altia Design managing all these connections, remembering with what's connected to what, and keeping track of that. And on a large, complicated GUI, that could get a little cumbersome. So we do suggest it for early on rapid prototyping, but then when you're going to production value, as things grow in complexity, especially if you're working across a team, suggest instead using the API, and sending events to animation names directly. So for example, this is not connected to anything, and either your logic or my hand or the API would actually change things directly. So for example, with the API, it would be the API function AT_send_text hello to the 74 readout text animation, and that's how that would happen, not connections. And then you might have, for input output, you might have a callback function that registers the value of a knob is changed. Your external code or even your control code could catch that and output that value to meters or text pieces or whatever. That's how you do it in production. But connections up front, as you saw, are quick to rapidly prototype and get things talking to each other quickly and easily.